Sporting Kansas City have just 18 days until the MLS season begins, and they now have 20 players under contract. So Sporting Kansas City announcing yesterday on Tuesday that they were signing 2 one-year contracts plus an option for an additional year, defenders Wyatt Meyer and defender Jayden Reid. Now, both players were on trial with Sporting Kansas City in Florida over the last 3 weeks, along with fellow defender Ethan Bartlow. Like I say, all 3 players had MLS experience, and if you checked out Drew FC yesterday on Substack, then you would have seen my write-up on the 3 players and an analysis of Sporting Kansas City potentially signing them. Now, I wrote this and published it before, about 6 to 8 hours before Sporting Kansas City announced the 2 defenders were signing deals. And at the time, if you followed me from the start of Sporting Kansas City's preseason, I said that at least one of these players would sign for the new season. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? 2 of them have signed for the new season. And as Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Now, Reid signs as a left back. He played quite a bit in preseason. He started in the first 11 for Sporting Kansas City against FIU, against Chicago Fire, and against the Charlotte FC last weekend. Wyatt Meyer also played in the first 11 team during the game against Florida International and as well against the Chicago Fire, although he dropped down to the second team for the match against Charlotte at the weekend, which was a 1-0 loss. It was their second 1-0 loss in preseason in a row. Jansen Miller returned from what seemed to be a bit of an injury and was fit enough to play against Charlotte, and he started in the first 11, which forced Meyer into that second team. Now, if you went through Sporting Kansas City's supporters, the comments yesterday on social media after the signings of these 2 players, there were a lot of underwhelming responses from fans, which I completely understand because these are 2 free agent players who were released by their MLS teams at the end of last season. Reid was let go from St. Louis City, while Meyer was released from Nashville. Now, I think these 2 players make a lot of sense for Sporting Kansas City as we go into this rebuild season. Now, this is being seen as a complete rebuild season, new coach, new infrastructure, and again, not only is Sporting rebuilding from the squad, the playing squad, they're rebuilding the infrastructure inside the club as well. So new GM as well, and a new owner is coming into the club to invest money. If you've been following Drew FC on Substack, and you can get the link in the description below to read all of the articles on Sporting Kansas City I have written so far this season, Sporting have had a lot of work to do, and there's been a bit of panic. But as I say, there was a lot of fans who were underwhelmed, fans saying that Sporting should be going out and spending lots and lots of money on players, this ridiculous idea that Robert Lewandowski should be signed because he was linked one day through in a few social media posts with Sporting Kansas City and with joining MLS. But again, I think these are smart moves. Kansas City needs depth in the defense. That is absolutely for sure. They have signed 2 players who will play in defense and will provide depth. And I think Jayden Reid will be the starting left back on opening day unless something surprising happens. He is the only left back currently that the squad have. He's a specialist left back, I should say. That is his position. He's always played that position. This is his position. Sporting Kansas City have been in the market for a left back. They tried to sign Cesar Inga. That fell through, didn't work out. Reid is another option, and potentially Reid would have been signed regardless of Inga joining because the team needs depth in defense. Meyer joins as well, and I could see him starting on opening day, depending on the fitness of Ian James and of fellow defender Jansen Miller, and depending on whether Sporting Kansas City can get another center back. They now have 3 center backs on the roster. So again, thin in defense. I wrote in the article that Sporting Kansas City's defense is very, very low value right now. It is, as a group, worth under $4 million or around that area. So this is a low value area that the club has, and they really need to build on. They signed Justin Reynolds from Chicago Fire in the first part of the offseason. So it is something that's being built, but this defense conceded 70 goals last season, and it really needs a lot of work going into 2026 to prevent that from happening. Reid, he was a start-stop season last season for him. He'd had a good 2024 for St. Louis City, but last season, a few injuries and just falling out of form prevented him from playing a lot more for St. Louis City, although he's got a lot of upside. He's only 24. He came through the Red Bulls Academy before being released after one season with them, went on to St. Louis, and did okay for 1 year, and then had a second season in which it wasn't quite as good before being released. Again, I don't see this as a poor signing for Kansas City. And again, I'll say this with Wyatt Meyer. He was on a free transfer. Kansas City are not investing a transfer fee into him. Reid made $104,000 last season for St. Louis City, or with St. Louis City, which means that he's low risk and high reward if this works out. In terms of Meyer, he only played 6 times in MLS last season. He had a little bit more success in the U.S. Open Cup. He played a full 90 minutes in their second and third round games, both wins, and he scored against Orlando City in a 3-2 win in that round of 16 game. Now, Nashville went on and won the U.S. Open Cup, but unfortunately, Meyer was not able to continue playing in the tournament due to a foot injury. Similar to Reid, had a bit of a start-stop season. Meyer played left back as well in those U.S. Open Cup games, so therefore we could see him playing in left back position. We could see him playing center back, and he's also said to be able to play in central midfield as a defensive midfielder. Meyer is 6'2", which makes him the third center back on the Kansas City roster who is 6'2". So Kansas City having some height there in the center of defense, perfect for defending crosses into that final defensive third or defending against set pieces, and as well as helping Kansas City on the attacking end in the attacking final third on set pieces. So I don't think that either of these players are a bad signing. And if you're looking at how much it's going to cost Meyer going forward into next season or into the 2026 season, he only made $80,000 playing for Kansas, $80,000 playing for Nashville last season in MLS. So again, low risk, high reward if this works out. And both players, again, only signed for one season with an option for a second season if they do well. There was another player who was on trial with Sporting Kansas City in Florida, and that was Ethan Bartlow, a former Houston Dynamo player. Now, he had far more experience in MLS than either of Meyer or Reid. He had played 80 times for Houston Dynamo over the course of about 4 seasons, and had a decent season last year. Played over 20 games. I believe he had a couple of assists. Contributed to 8 clean sheets for Houston, but was released at the end of the season. And I think that was definitely a salary cap move by Houston. And I think Sporting have passed on him at the moment, at least, due to the hit to the salary cap that they would have. He made $275,000 last season. And while fans may say, well, that's not that much, in MLS, in salary cap, those numbers add up and mean a lot when teams are trying to build a roster, especially in a rebuild. Meyer and Reid are their salaries combined last season were less than what Bartlow earned. So Sporting are able to get 2 players for the price of one Bartlow, and I think that is what they were looking at when they were looking at those salaries. Now, I'm assuming Bartlow will not be traveling to California. I'm assuming with Meyer and with Reid both signed contracts now, that Bartlow will be released and looking for another team. So I think that trial will be over. I mean, it could be surprised. I would be surprised to see him in California, although no information has been released yet. Now, like I say, I think these are good signings, low risk, high reward for Sporting Kansas City, and you're building that depth, and the club needs that. Now, fans on social media were going crazy about why aren't we signing this player, why are we signing that player. I think there are quite a few reasons why Sporting Kansas City aren't signing other players. Now, one, transfer targets are falling through. We've seen Rogers Mateo and we've seen Cesar Inga, both those deals fall through. Various reasons for those players not wanting to come to Kansas City. Agents maybe stepping in, and clubs maybe not wanting to sell to Sporting Kansas City. So I think those are obviously issues. Another issue that I don't think is going to be talked about a lot, and I think a lot of people will ignore, and that is the bit of civil unrest, to put it lightly, going on in the U.S. right now. I think if you are a player from abroad right now, you're not wanting to put yourself in any kind of a situation as a any kind of a situation going into the U.S. right now where you could feel uncomfortable. Let's just go ahead and say it like that. I think that is going to put off players from potentially joining Sporting Kansas City. Now, on the playing side, I think that as well. Sporting finished last in MLS last season, conceded 70 goals, scored 46. Last in Western Conference, I should say. That is a massive turnoff to players who are wanting to develop, players who are wanting to improve and get better and move on to, let's just go ahead and say, bigger and better teams in Europe. They're not going to be wanting to go to a team like Sporting Kansas City, who they can assume will be rebuilding and are going to assume they're going to be down near the bottom of the Western Conference once more. Again, I've talked about it before. Sporting Kansas City is a bit of an unknown team in Major League Soccer. Fans of or people who know of MLS from abroad, they know of your Inter Miamis, they know of your New Yorks, they know of your LAs, they know of your Chicagos, your Miamis, but they're not really sure about the Sporting Kansas City. This is a team who has flown under the radar for a very, very long time, and a lot of people outside the States aren't really familiar with them. So I think that goes against Sporting Kansas City as well. Now, in terms of finances, I don't think, as people have said on social media, as fans have said, Sporting Kansas City is being cheap at all. These signings point to me as a team trying to rebuild. When you do a rebuild, you can do a couple of things. You can either throw a bunch of money at a bunch of veterans who have been around, who are looking for another contract, who are nearing the end of their careers to come in, and maybe they can help turn things around, but it's unlikely. Or you can pay for one or two high-priced players with a bit of a name to come in and expect them to turn things around with some players who are subpar, and it never really works. I mean, we see that a bit in DC with DC United. So I don't think Kansas City will be splurging money on a big-name player. Even if Robert Lewandowski was literally wanting to come to Kansas City, I can't see that being a great move, even if it did happen, just because Kansas City already have Dejan Jovelic as a number 9. They don't need a second number 9. And also the amount of money that they would be putting into Lewandowski, that would be high risk and low reward, in my opinion. Yeah, you'll sell some shirts, but a lot of that money is going to go to Adidas anyway. It's not going to Sporting Kansas City. Now, what Sporting Kansas City look like they're doing is they're trying to sign, and again, we've talked about it before in the blog. So again, go to Drew FC. Description has the link, so you can go there and read all the content on Sporting Kansas City and MLS, or you can watch the old videos here on YouTube on Drew FC. But with signing these players, Kansas City are trying to get younger. That's one of the things that they're trying to do this year. They've gone from having 8 players over 30 just a couple seasons ago to now having 1 player, and that's Stefan Cleveland, I believe. Now, with this younger route that they're looking at, they're trying to build long-term. So some of these players will be there for the next few seasons as they try to build. It's not going to be an instant change. This is going to take time for Sporting Kansas City to do, and it's going to take time for fans and some patience for them to get into this. I don't really think that we're going to see a whole big change, a lot more signings before opening day on the 21st. I could see a couple more. Again, I still see Sporting Kansas City 2 players joining the first team, as well as a couple of academy players joining the first team, but I don't see any splurging going on with Sporting Kansas City unless they find one perfect target that they want to go for. But I am happy with these 2 signings. I think these 2 signings could be good for Kansas City this season. I think this is, like I say, low risk, high reward, and these players have plenty of potential in the same way that Calvin Harris, who was a free agent that Kansas City signed back in January at the start of the preseason. So watch these 2 players as they get to play in California in the Coachella Invitational Tournament coming up. Again, there's only 18 days until Sporting Kansas City kick off against San Jose at San Jose. So a lot of work still to be done. And just because teams like San Jose are signing players like Timo Werner, or you see some of the moves that other teams are doing, Inter Miami are a special team. Inter Miami, people want to go play there. Don't worry about Inter Miami. Let's worry about getting these young players, developing these players, in Kansas City and improving this team through that way. And I think this team is going to be difficult. I think it's going to be a difficult season for them, but I think it might be a better team than we think. That is going to be under Raphael Wicke. And I think that, like I say, there's a lot of work to do all over the club, but these two players, give them a chance. I think that they're going to be have some success this season for Sporting Kansas City. Okay, if you like this video, please check out Drew FC. Again, like I say, the link is in the description. Sign up there, subscribe. It's free. You'll get all the Sporting Kansas City content and MLS content this season, as I am back to writing about Sporting Kansas City after several years of being a lapsed fan. And here on YouTube, I plan on putting up videos, hopefully on a weekly basis. We'll see how that goes as we follow Sporting Kansas City for the upcoming season. And hopefully it'll be a successful season. If you like what you saw, hit subscribe, like, please comment below, and share if you're a Sporting Kansas City fan. And let me know what you think about the signings, about the new season, and about the club going forward after the last couple of really poor seasons. So guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.